Thanks for having me. So I'm a marine environment
Sitting nicely, please.
and climate activist. And I started back when I was 8 years old because I was on holiday in Thailand with my parents. And it was an incredible trip. My mum's always loved marine life and always pointed all these different types of marine life out to me. But while she had her head in the water looking for fish, all I could see was all this rubbish and plastic floating on the surface of the water. And I couldn't understand how a sea with so many incredible animals had so much rubbish in it. So then I made the decision of filling my kayak up with rubbish. And I brought it back to the hotel we were staying in, where we rented the kayaks, and the hotel manager was actually furious with me and went mental and couldn't understand why I might have done something as weird as that, and probably threw the rubbish back in the sea, which isn't great, but different culture, I guess. But then when I came back to Ireland, because I live quite close to the sea, I noticed that it was the same problem. It wasn't as warm and the water wasn't as clear, but we still had so much rubbish in the sea. And it just didn't make sense to me how a family could go down to the beach, have a lovely picnic, and then leave all their rubbish there at the end of the day. So I decided to start a beach cleaning club, or group even. And so then I had my first beach clean. I put posters all over the neighborhood and local areas saying, come to my beach clean 1 until 2. Unfortunately, no one came to the first beach clean, but luckily the next day I bumped into one of my local counsellors and asked him, hey, what do you think I should do if I want people to come to my beach cleans? And he told me to scrap the idea of posters and just go straight for social media, which I did. And next thing you know, I had a huge group who came to help us on beach cleans, which was great. And then in 2019, I was about to go into secondary school and I was being asked to do a lot of talks, and people were constantly asking to donate money to us, but we weren't a charity, we were just a beach cleaning group. So we decided to turn Flossie and the Beach Cleaners into an actual charity. That way we could also go to junior schools and give them workshops on the beach on plastic pollution and climate change, and show them what we find. And then afterwards they can come on a beach clean with us. So we do that all over Ireland and travel around. And then we also get to get involved with TY students like myself. And we teach them how to give workshops.
No, it's not.
Sorry, Flossie, I think we just have you on mute there for 1 second. Sorry. I think I accidentally clicked you there by mistake. Bear with me 2 seconds. Sorry, everybody.
It's all right.
Oh, there you go. You're back.
Yeah. Sorry, where did I get cut off?
Let me think. Just 2 minutes ago.
I think TY, so you would have just spoken about TY.
All right. Well, what we do is we take TY students and we get them to help give workshops to junior school children, because one thing I always felt in junior school was I don't listen as much to adults and teachers, but I would listen to people who were older than me, because teenagers I always thought were much cooler. So with that idea, we started to get TY students to give workshops so children will engage more with it. And then what we do is we take TY students to Indonesia every year, which is a long way away on the other side of the world, so that they get to witness frontline climate change and work with different conservation groups and charities who are really suffering. So one of the groups we work with is a little school who are on the banks of this river called the Chitram River, and that is one of the most polluted rivers in the world. And what these kids do is they pay in plastic bottles to go to school, which is incredible. So the amount of weight of plastic bottles they give is the amount of education they'll get that day. And then the bottles will then be brought to a recycling factory, and then through a long, long process, eventually the bottles break down and get recycled. But it's incredible. The children, they get a full education like we would get, but they also learn about environmentalism and how to live by the land and protect their local biosphere, which is incredible. Then we also go to a tiny island just off Indonesia called the Gili Islands, where they literally get to help save the turtles in their own sense and learn about something called coral propagation, where you help rebuild coral because over on the Gili Islands there was a big earthquake a few years ago, and almost all the coral is dead, and it's so weird. It's a beautiful sea, crystal blue, but there are no fish because without coral the fish can't really stay around. But there are different groups out there who are trying to rebuild coral and spend their time cleaning up the rubbish on the little island and making sure all the tourists wear eco-friendly suntan lotion rather than the poisonous ones which kill the coral and fish. We also find loads of weird things on the beach though, because people think beach cleaning is rather boring. All children do actually before we make them clean it. But it actually can be so much fun. I think of it as a bit of a treasure hunt because you can really quite often find amazing things. Last year we found 12 working Apple Watches. We put them up on social media, but no one reclaimed them. And then 5 Apple Watches that are broken, along with 3 iPhones. None of those were working, they were all broken. We find loads of jewelry, like engagement rings. This morning on the beach, I found this little hair clip, which I think is rather pretty. It's more of a treasure hunt. And you can also find really cool old things. Like if you find an old Coca-Cola can that's still intact and not completely destroyed, sometimes Coca-Cola will buy it back for you with a lot of money, which makes it even more fun to look out for Coca-Cola bottles because they want to keep their original designs. And then you can also find really cool old things like this. This is a little toy shoe, which was a toy in World War II, which is a long time ago. And we also find old bottles, which are up to 78 years old, and packaging from places like Dunnes Stores back when it was called St. Bernard's, which was about 80 years ago. Finding old things can be really fun, and sometimes people will buy them off you because they can be antiques. People never realise how much incredible marine life we actually have in Ireland. We are one of the richest countries in the world for marine life, but no one ever knows about it. We have over 20 different species of sharks in Ireland. None of them are dangerous, you'll all be glad to know, along with our beautiful selection of jellyfish, which people don't actually like that much, it seems. We have an incredible colony of seals. I can't remember the name of it, but that cool fish in Finding Nemo with the little light and the big teeth, we have that. We've actually been have had some sunfish found in our seas recently enough, and we have all these different big giant whales who make their journey across Ireland when they're traveling. So we are so rich in marine life, and yet only about 2.3% of it is protected. The government are finally increasing it to make it 30% protection, but they're still not doing that for a few years. So we have all this incredible marine life and so little of it's protected, to the point where whenever I'm beach cleaning on different parts of Ireland, what we find is we find gunshot cartridges along with dead birds and dead seals, because different fishermen shoot marine birds and seals if they think they're getting too close to their nets, which is absolutely heartbreaking and not fair considering it's the marine life's sea, not theirs, and it's their fish. That brings me to super trawlers. Super trawlers is one of like the big enemies of beach cleaning, or just in the sea in general. So if you think of a car ferry and how big a car ferry would be, that's about the size of a super trawler. And what they do is they release what can be 14 kilometers of either something called fishing rig or ghost net. Ghost net is really horrible and stringy and gets caught around anything. But the reason it's called ghost net is because when you put it in the sea, it becomes invisible for the fish, whereas fishing rig is big and green. So they release what is 14 kilometers of that. And then all these fish get stuck in it. But this is the even worse part. If it becomes too heavy because there are too many fish, or it becomes trapped on rocks or the seabed, or just their machinery isn't working, they chop 14 kilometers of the fishing rig or ghost net with the fish trapped inside. And then the fish go down and basically drown with all this fishing rig around them. And then that's where you see all the bigger animals like the whales, sharks, and dolphins that dive bomb into the net trying to get the fish to eat them. And then they also get stuck as well, which is horrific. So when you see those big videos of whales with fishing rig wrapped around them, that's normally how it happens. But even when you see those horrific videos, people always think, oh, that's horrible and it's happening on the other side of the world. But we also have bad things like that, like happening in Ireland. There's one spot in this place called Donnelly where there are loads of seals. And I love beach cleaning there because the seals always come up to watch you as you clean, and they're like Labrador puppies. But the problem is there's like a carpet of polystyrene balls floating on the surface of the water. So when the seals come up to watch us, they breathe through their nose and all this polystyrene shoots up, and then they go back down, then they come back up, and it just continues. It's horrific. And then you see all these beautiful seals in their little banana shape, which means they're happy and relaxing. And then every so often you might see like a bit of fishing rig wrapped around them, which we won't be able to take it off because coming close to a seal would distress it too much, which is horrible. Loads of people don't actually know how much the sea helps against climate change. Climate change is a scary topic, but that's only when people look at it in a scary topic. My view on climate change is we can solve it, but we have to work together. And the scientists have said we still have a chance to solve it, but we need to really take action. Obviously, though, since everyone's in junior school and I'm still in secondary school, that's more up to the adults to do it. It'll be up to us one day. But basically, we need to do what we can now to tell the government and the adults that we want change and we want a future. But no one ever realizes how much the sea actually can help against climate change, because the world is covered with 71% of water, which is a lot. And the sea absorbs 20 times more carbon dioxide, which is the bad stuff in our atmosphere. That's 20 times more than land, plants, and soil combined. So we need to protect it. What's funnily enough, it's one of my favorite little fun facts. Whale poo actually can help against climate change so much, because it's when a whale poos, loads of these tiny, like minuscule types of plankton eat it. And as they become bigger, the plankton, they suck in carbon dioxide, which is incredible. So going back to coral, I actually have next to me a tiny piece of coral. This is white because it's dead. So this would be a skeleton of a piece of coral. The reason it's dead could be it was knocked off by a boat, or it could be because it got bleached by the sun, or suntan lotion poisoned it, or it could have been an earthquake. But what coral's meant to look like, it's meant to be a beautiful color like pink or blue, anything like that. Coral is basically like the rainforest for the sea. It looks after over 1 million different species of fish. So like it'd be the home of different fish, and it would be a good nursery for little fish. Without coral, the fish can't really survive. And coral actually lives up to 5,000 years normally. So we need to look after it. That's all I really have to say. But what I really find is find what you're interested in the world and try and link it to protecting the environment. So I'm obsessed with the sea. So obviously I love beach cleaning and protesting against different types of super trawlers. But if you're into fashion or anything like that, you can always work around it. So like stop buying in fast fashion shops, protest against it. Or if you don't want to protest, that's fine. But like just try and shop only at secondhand shops, because you can get some incredible things there for really good deals. If you love trees and nature, then try and plant some bee bombs and plant more trees in your local areas. Just find what you're interested in and do what you can to link it to climate change. Back when I was 10 years old, I wasn't sure what to do still, and I didn't think beach cleaning was doing that much to stop climate change. So I decided to just start climate striking outside the government buildings in Dublin, which is the Dáil, which I've been doing every week for the last 4 years, because it's a good way of showing all the big people who are in charge in the world that we care about the planet and we want to help it. Anyway, that's all I really have to say.